You've been given the dreaded and daunting task of finding a 3PL. You're gonna have to marry a company for a couple of years now. So you gotta make the right decision. We're gonna dig into the nuts and bolts of that right now. Mike Diaz here from LMS Logistics Solutions, and today we're gonna discuss about selecting a 3PL. If you wanna know more about the industry, give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, smash that like button for me, hit the notification bell, and consider subscribing so you can help us out with the algorithm and see us on the next one. All right, so we're gonna talk about selecting a 3PL and a few steps to at least give you a basis. Now, if you don't know what the 3PL is, or you wanna know what a 3PL is and what we do, check out the link below. You're gonna have a link in description of a previous video that we did on what actually a 3PL is. Selecting a 3PL. So first you gotta start off with allocating the correct resources. You want one person to start digging into it and transmitting information back and forth, because there's gonna be a lot of RFPs, a lot of RFQs, and a lot of RFIs, and which is requests for information, questions, and the quote that they need to be pushing information back and forth with potential 3PLs. So after assigning the resources, we wanna know exactly what we need. So what do you need? What do you require? Is it a fulfilled by Amazon operation, also known as FBA? Are you gonna require some FBM? Do you require cold storage handling, food, FDA handling requirements? That way we can develop a long list, because traditionally people want to evaluate all 3PLs in the area, and every 3PL has their specific purpose, their specific focus, and their niche. So you want to reach out to only a few, possibly maybe 10 for a long list, and then you bring that list down to about 3 for a short list, and you start evaluating with more detailed each contender. So now that you've figured out what you want, figure out what's important to you. That's critical. Is price the main driver? Rates, low rates? Is quality of service the main driver? Because you really don't get, in this industry, both at the same time. You get what you pay for. Really cheap rates usually amounts to a mediocre level of service. And then, what size company do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with a smaller 3PL, or do you want to deal with a larger 3PL? How do you find your 3PL? Just Google 3PLs in the area, whatever area that you're looking for. Your freight forwarders. Freight forwarders know a lot of 3PLs. I think the best way to do it is word of mouth. If you have a supplier, a vendor, or know another company that uses a 3PL, you want to ask them if they know any 3PLs, any good 3PLs, because usually they've been consuming their services, and they could give you an honest assessment if they're good or not. Responsive, good with rates, fair, if they have a well-oiled machine or not. And then if you're working with an OMS, an order management system, or a WMS, you're currently managing your own little warehouse, those folks know a lot of warehouses. They know a lot of good warehouses. Industry publications. And these folks also have a list of vendors or a list of suppliers, and some of those are going to be logistics companies. At trade shows, when you're at trade shows, you're going to have logistics companies that are that have a booth. There are a few websites out there. 3PL Quote, Leonard's Guide, you have Inbound Logistics, you have the Work, Warehousing Educational Resource Council. You also have the IWA, the International Warehousing and Logistics Association. These folks have an RFP section or RFQ section, request for quote or request for proposal. You can get in there, jot down what your needs are, and they can connect you with a few warehouses that are in your area or that do the services that you require. So we mentioned a long list and a short list. There are thousands of 3PLs in the US. There are probably thousands in LA alone, Los Angeles. So you want to come up with a long list and then narrow it down to a short list. And in your long list, there's no perfect fit here. That we can guarantee you. That's a cliche. Our 3PLs, we change with our customer base, we change with technology, we change with governmental regulations. So what's good for you today might not be good for you tomorrow. There's a lot of times where 3PLs grow out of their customers. There's a lot of times where customers grow out of their 3PLs. So let's look at a long list. And what are you looking for? You're looking for a 3PL that has done or can do or is doing what you need them to do. Now, where does this dynamic change? We talk e-commerce. Not all 3PLs are created equal when it comes to e-commerce. Here at LMS, we do not like some set customer bases when it comes to e-commerce. I don't do small bins here. We don't have small bin locations. So a customer that requires really small bin locations is not something we're gonna evaluate to bring into the warehouse. So you wanna look at the needs that you have, what type of commodities that you're dealing with. For example, here at LMS, we don't take hazmat. So again, there's different metrics that are gonna make you a good fit for a 3PL. And a lot of times, those are handling units. Is your stuff really small? Is it really large and awkward? A lot of 3PLs don't have the space to take on 12-foot pallets or 12-foot bundles or something that's not on a pallet that needs to be handled a specific way. So if your stuff is out of the norm, out of the standard of a 4x4x4 cube, then you might want to select, you want to be very selective of your 3PL. Who do you sell to? Big box retailers? Do you sell to Costco? There might be some 3PLs out there, I don't know any, that might not want to do Costco just because of how picky they are. So let's talk about the long list. We're going to take about 8 to 10 companies, and this should probably be your 3 parameters. Are they in the desired location that you need them to be at strategically or tactically? Can they handle your service needs? And are they within alignment of what exactly you need from a 3PL, whether it be size, whether it be e-commerce focus, whether it be industrial. So now we're at our short list. Now that you got your short list, you have a pretty good amount of information on who you might want to select from that long list to develop your short list. And communication during the entire process is kind of key, and it's a telltale sign of how the company communicates. Once you develop your short list, do yourself a favor and do everyone else a favor and let them know, the ones that you did not select, let them know that you did not select them during the shortlist process. Why? Because they're gonna keep reaching out to you and asking you about whether you evaluated their information or not. And it's just gonna create more noise, kind of like what you hear in the background. It's gonna create a lot of noise for you, external noise, and it's not gonna let you really do your job well, which is evaluating these next 3 to 4 candidates, these potential warehouses that you wanna marry for the next couple of years. So I know how dreaded and daunting the task is. It's literally like marrying someone or something for a long period of time. I'm gonna provide you a template that helps you evaluate your short list, and then I'm gonna make myself available to you via email in the description below. And you also can call our company if you want some insight on who you're potentially evaluating. Over here at LMS, we are 100% transparent. We know the players that are out there. We are okay with complimenting the competition out there because there are some great guys out there, but there are some bozos out there you want to steer clear from. Right here to our left, this customer went through his freight forwarder, but his freight forwarder wasn't too savvy. These guys import herbs from Peru. These guys were getting charged $91 a month for a pallet in storage at 195 pallets. Can you do the math on that? And then they were shortchanged. They were told to get their stuff out, and they were told, you owe us another $30,000. And then they gave us 2 days to get all their crap out of 3 different locations. So before you get yourself in a bind and you do something this terrible, reach out to us. We'll give you the ins and outs on who you could potentially be doing business with. Stay tuned to the channel. We're gonna tell you how to do this the right way. We're gonna tell you how to negotiate with 3PLs. We're gonna tell you how to be a great customer to 3PLs. We're gonna tell you how to prep your supply chain to go into a 3PL, a public warehouse setting. We're gonna give you the tips that you need to come into a 3PL the correct way. There are a lot of 3PLs out there that like customers with loosey-goosey supply chains so they could start racking up the bills and start hiking up all the extra additional services, the nickel and dimes. We're gonna give you the tips so you can avoid that all completely and come in prepped, ready to rock and roll and start selling. All right, here's some red flags to look at during your process of selecting a 3PL. Guys that don't require a lot of details, the ones that don't ask a lot of questions. Usually here we have about 50 questions that we ask the customer, ranging from what type of activity they have, what does their freight look like, how it's stacked, how it's packaged, how it ships, who they ship to, and any crazy requirements. If the 3PL that you're talking to is not trying to get these details from you, point blank, they're just trying to get you in the building. Now, it might be for good intentions or bad intentions. So there's a lot of 3PLs out there that have some empty space, and some 3PLs want to fill that empty space, so they're willing to get a customer in at all cost. Now there's some guys out there that want to get you in at really cheap rates and then start immediately hiking up the price, because once you just moved all your inventory in a building and you have 200 pallets or so in there, it's really not favorable for you to move out because there's a lot of money entailed. And what happens? Your rates or the charges start getting hiked up even higher and higher. Sooner or later, you don't want to pay for it. And now you're in dispute with a new 3PL and they lien your goods. Once they lien your goods, they have the ability to sell it off to a liquidator once they exercise that lien correctly, and now you're lost out with a lot of inventory. That's just a bad way to start business. Another red flag to look at. Let's say you get about 10 different rates from 10 different 3PLs, and this guy has really, really low rates. That is a red flag. That's probably because they want to just get you in the building and then hike them up. Or, you never know, they might have some empty space. So definitely talk to them on that one. So we talked about the long list earlier. That is the time that you want to send out your RFP, meaning everything that you require and anything that you entail. Now, if you don't have one because maybe you're a brand new company or you just started or you just don't know what warehouses want to ask, I'm going to leave you a questionnaire below so you can download it, fill all that stuff out. It's going to ask you what type of product do you have. It's going to ask you, how do you bring that product in? Is it via small partial, less than truckload, full truckload domestically, or import ocean container, or it could be a rail container? All of those things really matter. Now, what your volumes are. How many truckloads do you have coming in per week / per month? How many orders do you have per day? On the outbound, how do your orders go out? Do they go out by the pallet or do they go out by the small box? Does it require UPC labeling? Does it require pallet labeling? UCC labels on a pallet? That's required by big box retailers. How many SKUs, how many different items go out per order? Do you have 100 items going out per order or you just have one? That really holds some weight. When it comes to storage, how many pallets do you have in the facility at once? How many different SKUs do you have at the facility at once? Are they stackable? Are they stackable 2 high, 3 high, 4 high, 5 high? Do they require to be in a rack? Those things hold weight when it comes to us 3PLs defining what your rates are going to be at the end of the day. Peak seasons. What are your peak seasons? 3PLs, smart 3PLs, are looking for new business that complement their slow seasons. Every third-party logistics company has a high season and a low season, and some guys per se sell things that sell more in the summer. Other customers sell things that are more predominant during Christmas. Warehouses try to find customers that augment their slow seasons, and you can capitalize that by getting a slightly cheaper rate. So now you're down to your short list, which is probably about 2 to 4 companies that you potentially want to deal with. Now is when you dig really, really deep into who they are. You have to ask for references. That's a must. 3 to 4 references, and you want references that are similar to your operation, meaning volume-wise and commodity-wise. So if you're an e-com customer, ask the potentials to send you 3 references of e-commerce customers. If you're pushing 20 truckloads a month, then make sure they're sending you a reference that is within that volume range, not a 1 truckload a month customer or just a storage customer. We run a glass house here. So whether it's for the city officials coming to inspect us for fire hazards, customers, potential customers, they could come see us at any given time without an appointment. We will show them the premises because we run a glass house and it's always inspection ready. Talk to your potential warehouse. Don't set a time and date that you're going to run by their facility and see how things are going. Meet the management team, meet some associates, See what the sentiment is like, what the culture is like. Let them know a range. Hey, can I come see you in about 3 weeks? Don't give them solid dates and times. Give them a range. That way you could show up at any given time within that range, and they may be ready for you. If they don't like the idea, I'd probably take that as a red flag and be skeptical on working with them. When walking around the warehouse, you want to look for straight lines. You want to look particularly at damage. Tell the warehouse to take you to the damaged area. You want to see the damaged area. If they have a damaged area, they're probably not the right fit for you. We don't have a damaged area here in LMS. We're not in the damaging business. So we talked about selecting a 3PL. We went through the RFP process. We talked about the long list, the short list, and then how to find us. If you have any questions or comments, or you need anything else clarified, put them below or send me an email. It's in the description below. Best of luck on your search, and we'll see you next time.